technical issue. Thank God I'm not doing that. Okay, we're ready? Okay, are we on? It's possible. Okay, we're on. Do I have to say that all over again and put them through that torture? I'm registered dietitian Myrna Haag, bringing you impactful nutrition information. And in this video, I'm going to talk about essential oils. Now, not really nutrition, but I'll tell you the story, why it even got into my toolbox in the first place. So, Sam, if you can switch me over to the PowerPoint, let's get moving. Okay, perfect. So, the healing powers of essential oils. I mean, first of all, are there truly healing powers on essential oils? That's kind of the big question. And why that even got to, let me see, Sam, can I go to the next slide? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, zoom out. Okay. How's that? Doing all right? Okay. So essential oils started for me as part of my state licensing. I have to get licensed by the state, but also by the Commission for Dietetic Registration, which is a little more stringent. So I was really quite, I guess, surprised when I saw as part of my state licensing that there was essential oils masterclass. So I thought, wow, this is interesting. I think I'm going to take part in it because it's not something really with food, but I guess we could consider it. Sammy, can I go to the next slide?
Yeah, you're just having that slight audio issues.
Okay. Is it working now?
It's a better now.
Okay. So the question is, do essential oils have healing properties? That was the big question. And what we're going to go through in this video is, first of all, let's talk about what essential oils are, because I take for granted everybody knows. It's when certain plants are concentrated down to a liquid extraction, and they're usually mixed with some type of carrier oil. And the key here, and this to me is really crazy, there's over 3,000 different plant species, but only 10% are actually used for essential oils. And just to give you an idea of the concentration, we're talking about 250 pounds from one plant to produce 1 pound of essential oil. How are we doing, Sammy? Okay?
You're doing fine.
Okay.
Sounds going.
Okay, perfect. So one of the methods in doing that is this distillation. And it's using the plants and distilling them down with steam and extracting in a very concentrated form this liquid. And so essential oils are used for topical, they're used for aromatic and oral. And there's a lot of benefits. You know, they're talking about how it's an emotional benefit. It can help with the relaxation. It can help motivate you. It can reduce anxiety. You're supposed to smell it. It can help healing properties. But the point I want to get across, and what I'm going to bring in this video, is there's a lot of anecdotal evidence about these essential oils. And I really wanted to get down to the science, the nitty-gritty. I wanted to be able to deliver to you what is it about these oils that make them so healing, protective, that make them really what the claim to fame is all about. So first of all, I looked in this distillation process. And this is about extrapolating these type of chemicals, terpenoids, that are these natural compounds in plants that really chemically have some healing properties. And they're the part of the plant, I think of it as the immune system of the plant. But what's really important to understand is they have to be grown in the right place, because these chemicals come from phytochemicals. It comes from being in the right environment where the sun can give that right energy to the plant. So it's not like you can just take a plant and grow it in your backyard and then think it's going to work and put it through this distillation. It actually is a very complicated process, mostly found in China, South Korea, Japan, in ancient Pacific properties. So, bottom line, you got to get it sourced right. And then the other variation is you got to get this distillation right. And there can be a lot of problems in that. For instance, you could not have the right equipment. It could be not done with, there could be human error involved. So it's not just about getting this oil or this essential oil distracted down. It's really, even in the process, somewhat complicated. So as I'm going through this and trying to understand a little bit more, let's look at what is it exactly these plants are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to have antimicrobial properties. In other words, they can kill bacteria and viruses in the body, and they actually then can neutralize or destroy reactive oxygen species. So most people know what bacteria and viruses are, but a lot of people may not understand what are reactive oxygen species. ROS, so if you're going into studies and you see ROS, because a lot of times that's how they abbreviate it. Also, they'll refer to it as oxidative stress, because these little species, these little oxygen species, they oxidize tissue. It's just a chemical way that they decide to damage healthy tissue. And I use it as, I try to give you an example, and I use smoke as a good example. You have fire is good, you've got heat from the fire, but it produces an end product, which is smoke. Well, the little furnace in your body is the mitochondria. The mitochondria is where your body uses oxygen, fat, and glucose to create fuel. It's actually the little engine in our cells. It does it, and we have millions of these little engines. And in the process of creating energy for you, because we know we're a little furnace, we're 97 degrees, so in a sense, we're a little fire burning, sort of, in a way. So this metabolism, this mitochondria, produces these end products called reactive oxygen species. Now, the mitochondria produces a certain amount that does good things. It can trigger chemical reactions that are supposed to happen. But what can happen is we create too many of these end products, these ROS, and they can start damaging healthy tissue. So these reactive oxygen species can go into arteries and start oxidizing. This is literally what heart disease, atherosclerosis, is all about. They can go into the brain. They can damage brain tissue. So these reactive oxygen species need to be neutralized. And that is apparently what these essential oils are claiming to be able to do, that they can actually neutralize. They can downgrade the damaging effect of these reactive oxygen species. So regardless if they're circulating in different parts of our body, if they're actually neutralized, they have no damaging effect at all. So when they do that, they decrease inflammation, because these reactive oxygen species are really highly inflammatory in the body, because as they're damaging, this is a picture of the artery wall, and these reactive oxygen species, this is heart disease, atherosclerosis, the plaque that builds up in the artery wall. These reactive oxygen species love to oxidize fats, especially the LDL, the bad fats, the ones that your doctor says you want to get reduced, because when you have a lot of LDL fats, when you have a lot of these damaging cholesterol fats, they are prime candidates for reactive oxygen species to begin to eat upon them, to break them down. Well, what can happen with these essential oils? Claims are that they can go in and actually neutralize this chemical action, not only in the brain, but in the arteries, in all the places these reactive oxygen species are damaging tissue, which is about everywhere. Okay, so they're claiming, wow, these reactive oxygen species, not really claiming, we actually know the science behind them, that they are big culprits in diseases, dementia, cardiovascular disease. Now, a lot of other components have to take place for that to happen, but also the gut-brain reaction. And I talk about this in some of my podcasts as well, on how the gut is very instrumental in creating other diseases throughout the body, because the gut can create these bad bacteria that can travel. But the other thing that can happen is more bad bacteria is created in the gut, because maybe you're just not eating a diet that's very good, high Western diet, a lot of these plant oil fats, a lot of bad junk food. These bad bacteria recruit more reactive oxygen species, which then create even more bad bacteria that can travel to other parts of the body. But also, the bad bacteria in the gut create more create more ROS, reactive oxygen species. So you have a double whammy here. But what can also happen is they're a direct communicator to the brain. So in other words, there's this gut-brain axis that goes on through the vagus nerve that these reactive oxygen species can also travel to the brain, and so can the microbes from the gut as well. So I thought I would mention that because I think that's really important to understand that there is this gut-brain reaction. Reactive oxygen species are big instigators, and so are bacteria and viruses. So if we're really going to understand disease, there's three things that are the main culprits. Reactive oxygen species, because they oxidize and create a lot of inflammation in the body. They recruit immune cells, also bacteria and viruses. And apparently, these essential oils are instrumental in being able to, number one, neutralize these ROSs, stopping the tissue damage. They can kill bacteria and viruses. And also, the claim is that they enhance cellular processes. Apparently, they can help trigger some chemical reactions in the body that actually help us with functioning health-wise. So when you're looking at it as a clinician, which is how I'm looking at it, I don't really want anecdotal evidence. I don't want somebody to tell me they felt great because they did an essential oil. I want to get down to the science. I want to really see studies that are really doing everything they say they're doing here. So let me give you a little bit of science on bacteria and viruses and a little bit about how antibiotics work. In relationship with bacteria, antibiotics attack the wall of the bacteria, the cell wall, and that's how they're able to destroy these bad bacteria. Well, viruses don't have walls. They have proteins. They work a little differently. So that's why an antibiotic has no effect on a virus, because it's built different. But viruses send their little proteins into the cell, and they can really deregulate the cell. They can actually change and cause damage to the cell. So what these essential oils are claiming to be able to do is, number one, they can break down the bacteria wall and destroy the bacteria, and they can also affect the proteins within these viruses. Because what these essential oils are part of the plant's immune system. Okay, these terpenoids that I described in a previous slide. So these concentrated sources, remember, 250 pounds from one plant delivers 1 pound of essential oil. And when you get your little serving, it'll probably 15 milliliters, which is ideally 250 drops. And each drop is very concentrated. A lot of therapeutic dosage may be 3 drops. But my question as a clinician, again, is I don't want to hear claims. I want the science. I want to see, when I talk about science, let's go into that because I think that's important. And then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about the FDA and some of their, really what they're dispelling, and they're saying it's not true. But when we look at science, a lot of it is anecdotal evidence. And a lot of people who aren't clinicians will fall back on this. A lot of marketing materials is anecdotal evidence. And shame on clinicians that depend on anecdotal evidence. Because this is very weak, very weak. And what anecdotal evidence, and this is a perfect example, I brought a study up because they showed a double-blind, random-controlled study done on lavender oil preparation. They don't tell me anything about where it's sourced, the distilling process. I don't know anything about it. All I'm doing is I'm getting a study based on a questionnaire, which is anecdotal. Oh, we questioned 5,000 people. I don't care if you question 20 million people. It's still a questionnaire. doesn't tell me anything in depth science-wise. It just says we asked all these people questions and this is what they told us. We don't know anything about the people, but the difference is with clinical evidence, you're going to get some science on how the body works. So I'm using this study as an example. Essential oil molecules can break the loop of oxidative stress in neurodegenerative diseases, which Alzheimer's would be one of those, Parkinson's would be another. So they're basically saying these essential oils can actually break the loop, or really what the study is saying is how it can neutralize the ROS, because reactive oxygen species are oxidative stress. So this is more clinical evidence because, first of all, they're going to give me the biochemistry on brain and the molecules. And so this is basically science. So as a clinician, I'm like, okay, I know what terpenoids do. I know what kind of compounds they are chemically. You're explaining that to me. I understand about neurodegenerative diseases. You're explaining that to me. So most clinicians are going to go, okay, good. You got me there. Good. That's science, because they're giving me the biochemistry. And then the next thing they're going to do is they're going to actually take the essential oil and they're going to put it in a test tube and try it. And when they do that, they're finding, wow, these essential oils actually, when we put E. coli or we put any kind of bacteria, they eat away at it. So we do know, in fact, because we see it in the Petri dish, these essential oils are actually breaking down the walls of the bacteria. But that doesn't mean that it's going to do it in an animal, because you got to get the essential oil in the mouth, through the stomach, down to the intestinal tract, get absorbed, and actually make it into the cell. It's a little different than a Petri dish. But what they did in this study is they said, yep, we are going to explain to you how oxidative stress, these reactive oxygen species, can cause these neurodegenerative diseases, which we all agree as clinicians, we understand that's true. What we're debating is the essential oil's ability to be able to reduce the ROS oxidation. So this study goes into it. They again talk about the biochemistry. Remember, this is different than anecdotal. I'm not asking people to fill out a questionnaire. I'm not asking them how they feel. It could have been from something they ate the day before. It's not good science. But this is looking at the ROS function, and they took some of the oils. I think they used worms in this study, and they infected them with the virus. They infected them with the bacteria, and they wanted to see, by injecting this essential oil, did it have an effect? And yes, it did, actually. So they found in some of the other studies I looked at, it was true that there did seem to be some definitely an effect in reducing this. So these are, clinical studies. This is what clinicians should be looking at, not anecdotal evidence, which is usually what they use in marketing. So, and also I think a lot of times people don't even look at the studies. They don't read them. They just take whatever the marketing material says the study said. And you can't do that. You have to really be responsible and try to look through and see really what are they saying. So that's what I was doing and trying to look at these essential oils. Remember, I took a class, and the class was a master class. They didn't give me a lot of biochemistry. They really just said, this is what they do. Some of the things they told me was very interesting, and I thought I would share this with you. 95% of all essential oils are adulterated. So as I'm going through and looking at all these studies and saying, wow, you know what? There is some impactful healing properties. There does seem to be that these essential oils do have some impact. They do actually break down cell walls and bacteria, and they do seem to do some things with the viruses, and they've shown that it possibly can reduce the oxidation stress. But what good is this if we are not able to use the products in the studies that are actually doing this? And this is where I went, okay, if this is really good science, then maybe we should be really looking at this. And, I have my followers. You're my people. I don't care about the rest of the world. I care about the people who care about what I'm saying. So if you think this is something I should research in more depth, I'm going to do it because you're the people I'm serving. And you can put that in the comments below. But my point is, if 95% of them aren't even valid, so this means in order for something to be valid, it has to be tested by a third party. So I did more research, and I find there are third parties that do test essential oils. And these are some of the top ones that do. The APRC, Aromatic Plant Research Center, CSC, Global Services, Essential Oil University. So regardless of what these oils are saying, and I went online and I realized, oh my gosh, none of these oils have actually been tested by the third party. And most of them say it's only for topical use. Well, if the oil is not able to be ingested as a supplement, then it's probably no good. Seriously, because these plant essential oils, just like the plants you eat, you should be able to take them orally, unless they've been mixed with other carriers, which I found over 95% of them most likely have been. So even if it says customer satisfaction, 100% guaranteed, it's all organic, it means nothing. None of that means anything. Oh, it's verified and tested, means nothing. You have to get a testing agency that will actually verify it. So when you look on it, and at least if it says dietary supplement, like doTERRA at least says dietary supplement, it means that, yeah, this can be ingested. But I still want to see where these other third parties have said that everything these people are saying are in this essential oil are actually in it. So when you go back and look at what the FDA is saying, because I did look at that, and the FDA sent a warning letter to a lot of these essential oil companies saying that, you know, any product that is marketed to cure or treat or prevent a disease that is not FDA approved is considered an illegal, unapproved drug. Well, I sort of have a problem with some of that as well, to be honest with you, because I think Big Pharma has their hands in a lot of stuff, and I would like to think that the FDA could look at some natural things, and I think they do. But that is, so I'm not sitting on the fence with that either, by the way. I'm just a clinician trying to serve my people. That's what I'm trying to do with the knowledge I have and my abilities to dive deeper to see if this is something that's really going to be helpful. So in this article, it says the FDA found that Young Living essential oils, which could be any of them, they claim that they had, their viral infection, that they can cure viral infections like Ebola, Parkinson's disease, autism, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, insomnia, heart disease, post-traumatic stress syndrome, dementia. This is a magic oil that can do everything. And some of these other companies have said the same thing, and FDA is saying you can't say that. And I would agree. You can't just say that. You got to be able to show more clinical evidence. But I think that it's interesting because there was enough clinical evidence for me to say there could be a possibility. Not enough for me to say, hey guys, I can give you the biochemistry on it, because I really can't. I haven't researched it enough. I've just found that there's people that are researching it. But the big takeaway that I want to share with you guys is, yeah, I do think there's probably maybe could be some clinical basis for it. But most clinicians with licenses, because a lot of people that sell essential oils don't have this fiduciary responsibility like doctors or RDs do, which I'm an RD, so I can't just, I'm really supposed to be giving you information that's clinically backed, right? Other people can do podcasts and say whatever they want, and I guess they don't have the same regulatory agency looking over their backs, but they certainly do for me. So I'm going to try my best to deliver the information that's evidence-based for you. But really, most clinicians are going to live by what are called medical best practices, but a lot of times those are skewed as well to be more pharma-oriented. But doctors are treating people. They're not doing research, and you got to keep that in mind. And a lot of times they're depending on pharma, because when they do get a patient, they got to give them that drug that's going to put the fire out immediately. And with prevention, it's a little different. But I think also in the prevention camp, we can have a lot of times not very good procedures. There's no regulation for supplements. There's no regulation for essential oils. So when you're saying it's going to cure all these diseases, there's no regulation. At least pharma has regulations. They're going to give you dosages. But all these others don't. You don't really know what you're taking. But I still want to give credence to it, because I really believe there's so many things in some of these preventive means that can be really helpful. But until it's regulated, it could be a danger spot, or it could just be ineffective. So you could be, believing a lot of these things, but it doesn't mean what you're taking is going to give you any healing properties at all. And that is the takeaway, is that you have to have consumer beware. And all these essential oils that I saw on the market, most of them wouldn't pass the test for me, because it's got to be a third party. And even with supplements, okay, a lot of supplements are hype, marketing hype. We don't even know if what's in them is real. We like to think it is. The difference with some supplements, especially with vitamins and minerals coming from my camp, yes, that's research and science. We know what vitamin A does, vitamin D does. That's what we call biochemistry. We got that. The problem is we don't know if the supplement you're taking has that, right? So we like to believe, I like to think companies, big companies, I'm usually going to go for the bigger supplement companies, because I know they're not going to risk their reputation on putting something really, not so good in that bottle, which I probably wouldn't trust a Walgreens brand from, China. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be political, but I want to have a little more regulatory process than that. Okay. So that's the take on essential oils. I think there could be a lot of promise there. If you think this is something you want me to do more research on, I can try to get some more information. And also, I want to mention my book is out. You can get it on Kindle through Amazon for $2.99. That to me is like, why not, right? And it's Why Your Diets Fail and the Science That Really Works. And don't forget to like, subscribe.
We're over 800.
We're over 800, yay! And you're my people. You're the people I work for. Don't care about anybody else. I only care about you. So I'm here to serve you. Let me know what you think about these essential oils. Is it worth getting deeper into, or should we move on to some other things that could be possibly more impactful? Okay, Sammy?
Yep.
We have any chats?
Not today. We're all good.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Until next week.
Yep.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.